So we don't have a meeting minute taker today because there's too many people away and we don't have enough staff. So poor staff is going to have to watch this later and extract the minutes out of it. So I'll try and make notes for her to make it easier. Okay, let's just get started. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to try and make this one quick. I just need, my priority is just a little bit more input from stakeholders on the HRVA so that I can get this thing finished. I'm tired of looking at it. Okay, so does anyone mind, can we approve the agenda? Anyone have anything they want to add to the agenda? Burning topics you'd like to discuss?
Thank you.
Okay. Do we need more time? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Sure.
Thank you, Bob. I didn't hear that, Tess. I know you stay up late. Okay, can I get someone to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tess. Okay, and I'm sure you all read over the minutes of the last meeting in great detail. Anyone have anything they'd like to change, edit on the minutes?
All good on my side.
Hearing nothing, can someone move to adopt the minutes?
Sure.
Okay, we'll call it Bruce. Anyone want to second that?
Sure.
Bob? Let's move forward. Ooh, any public comments today? Nope, no members of the public. Let's just go around really quickly and give updates again. Does anyone have anything that they want to let the committee know? The fire ban is lifted. You can start.
Well, yes and no. You can start a backyard fire, like a campfire for cooking, whatever, not till the 15th is the 15th for machine burner clearing. And then even then, if it is lifted, you have to have a permit, you have to phone the area index to make sure it's a burn day.
Right on. Sorry, I was talking about the coastal fire center. My bad. That one's lifted, right?
That one is lifted.
So can I have a trash fire?
No. That's a class 2. We're only in class 1, which is just a half meter by half meter. 0.5 by 0.5 campfire.
Okay.
For cooking or warmth.
I'll measure.
No weenie stick up.
So only for cooking and warmth, not garbage.
What's that?
Only cooking and warmth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can do a little cooking on my garbage fire. Garbage fire.
Bob, do you have any emergency management related updates for the committee?
No.
Another. Really? You're good at this.
Bruce, congratulations on receiving your Emergency Social Services Director certification. I know you haven't heard yet. But
I haven't.
I'm assuming it's a go.
No
On
kidding.
finishing the course.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't know if I passed yet.
Yeah, and soon to pass.
I'm
I'm
sure you
confident.
passed.
I'm sure you did
That's
fine.
awesome, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we have 3 qualified trained directors on Bowen. That's great.
Cool.
Good job.
Who are the
Yeah, I got
others?
all my Red Cross stuff now too.
Carolyn?
Myself and Carolyn.
What, is Raiden not?
You know what? She would have taken the course too. 4. That's huge for a population
Whoa.
of 3,600.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah, I got all my Red Cross stuff together too. So the next thing I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna do their first responders
That'll
course.
be in November.
Yours is in November? I'll do that one too then.
Anything on the communications team?
No, not right now. Everybody's kind of hibernated, but I've got a good exercise coming up that's gonna test, that's gonna get people to be ready with what they're supposed to be ready to be able to do. being able to scribe a lot like ICS communication. It'll be like an ICS communications
You'll update us once
test.
that
Yeah,
happens.
and I'll update you when that goes down.
Good. Test.
I don't have any updates.
Thank you. Robin, how's NERPS?
We're plugging away at it.
Good. Thank you. And Bonnie, I think you spoke a lot about the oil spills last month, but anything you want to?
No, I see it on our,
Yeah, we'll
Agenda.
talk about it then. Okay, good idea. How's it going?
Good. This year I think I'm gonna dedicate myself to being a little bit more in touch with Sea to Sky, regional Sea to Sky partnership, and just trying to get them to understand our side and vice versa. The RCMP station is also almost done our business continuity, which is basically, as you know, it's like a huge Tupperware where if our building falls down, the Tupperware is somewhere else, we pull it out and we can plant a 72-hour police station at Collins Hall. That's right now our secondary station. So almost done. I appreciate Ian, your crew. You guys donated some emergency kit for that. So really appreciate it. It was one of those, it's like pulling teeth trying to get.
We're just hoping to get out of jail free card.
Right. You're almost there.
3 more kits and you're good.
Few more donations.
Oh, I thought you were catching up. But that's it. We're all good.
Awesome. Thank you. And you'll all hear all about me throughout the meeting, so I'm just going to skip me. Okay.
Oh, sorry, can I just say one more thing regarding the fire?
Please.
I was in Chilliwack Fire Base yesterday, and they have the new Fire Smart manuals. I put a whole bunch in the lobby. Now is the kind of the time of year when you're doing fall cleanup and stuff to start reading that and looking at what you can and can't do regarding Fire Smart. So it's a good brochure, and they're out in the lobby right now.
I'm making a list for Sophie of various things that could be put on social media because she controls the fire department page. So like annual, fire prevention week, we should put a post up for that. So it might be a good idea like spring and fall to have, hey, while you're doing cleanup, check out this Fire Smart information. Just in case it spurs anyone to action. So I'll add that to her list.
Are you gonna cover anything about October 20th or whatever
What do you want to know?
shakeout? Are we doing anything here on the island? Is there any activity planned or any?
Not really. The municipality participates as a entity, but in terms of like public participation, I've reached out to the schools and encouraged them to participate and register their participation, but not this year. It might be something that we do next year. Actually, one of the action items is to create a public outreach and education plan, so I think that that would be part of sort of this program going forward, but we didn't get anything organized this year. We are going to test the emergency notification system the day before shakeout, and in that test remind people to participate and that it's happening. We have-
Went to Duck and
Yeah.
Hole.
Yeah, we have 599 people enrolled as of today, so we're about 20% of the total population, which is even.
but do you have a measurement of how many families that represents? Because like,
They're supposed to enroll individually because you
Yeah.
might not be at home if you have a cell phone and so no.
but just because like, I'm pretty sure from census, like half of our population is under 18. And I don't even know how many of those are like under 12 and wouldn't have phones and are dependent on
So I
adults. Do you know
got
what
all
I mean?
that information.
Yeah.
When I was originally calculating the percentage that had enrolled, I didn't include people under 14. That was the cutoff
Oh, okay.
because of the census data.
Yeah.
And there are still almost 3,000 people over 14 on the island.
Okay, that's
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And all of those deets are in the minutes, I believe, of previous meetings. I've been talking about it a lot, so I can't remember who I've told what
No,
to.
that's really helpful. Thanks.
But yeah, the highest number I ever heard from another community was 20% enrollment, and that was after a year of hardcore publicity. So
Wow.
the fact that we have it after a month and haven't really had a formal communications campaign, I think is great. And that's happening now. The mail drop is being printed, and then I'll try and get that in mailboxes this week or next in advance of shakeout.
Yeah, and I saw it was in the undercurrent, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think I saw that, yeah. Wow.
I heard that. Okay, thanks guys. So action items, Steph suggested, and I think it's a good idea that we just pull out the action items from previous meetings. So none of the people that are assigned to any of these are here. basically there's just, oh, are they in here? Okay, good, yeah. Sorry, page 6 of 11. Some ongoing things, so this committee is tasked with creating a work plan for the emergency program, so if there's something you want to see done, this is your opportunity to make it happen. And that includes the public outreach and education plan. Rapid damage assessment is on a future agenda, and we're still waiting to hear back from Sherry about that seriously outdated field hospital kit. And as things are completed, I'll remove them, so you won't
We
see
have a
those
field
emails.
hospital kit?
Well, I wouldn't say that we do.
Okay.
We have one, but it is so old.
Where is it?
At the fire hall. And it's in pieces and all over the place, and some of it's been given away, and it's like from the 50s, 60s,
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, earlier than that, some of it's actually from the 40s.
40s.
Yeah.
That's really
It's all old army surplus
Yeah.
gear.
Yeah.
So
It's all
Sherry-
vacuum packed and sealed and everything. It's all still pretty good. Just
nuclear attack type stuff.
Yeah.
And Sherry said that all the Sea to Sky communities had theirs updated prior to the Olympics, and I guess we got overlooked, so she was gonna look into maybe getting ours updated as well. It's not very useful the way it is.
Boy, field hospital kit, that sounds like a pretty large piece of,
It's lots of boxes. Well, you got some of it, the backpacks of stuff. Okay.
but those are just dressing kits.
Yeah, that was only part of it. There's more. There's the stretchers, there's the first aid, well, you saw the first aid stuff, the canteens. I don't think it's a field hospital,
I don't think so.
but that's what Sherry seemed to think it was, so we'll see. We'll see what she comes back with. Okay, moving swiftly forward. On to item 6, new business, the EOC team. I need some input from you guys on what we should do with these folks. So essentially there's no company documentation for this.
Where do you see that? Sorry.
Where is this on our
On the red.
On the agenda?
6, new business?
6, there we go.
6.1, sorry. So there are 10 or 11 staff, and Bruce and Carolyn are currently listed as EOC team members, but we have never met, practiced, exercised. I don't think a lot of them have actually even been in the EOC. So I'm sort of looking for input on what you guys think an acceptable sort of interval of meetings is. I think probably once a month would be what I want, but it is a lot, and people have real jobs, other jobs to get to. So how often should that team meet in order to be better prepared for an emergency?
What's the goal of the meetings? To
Well,
exercise?
They
or
would be
just-
different, so some would be training sessions, some would be workshops, some would be drills, it would depend. But I'm really looking to make a recommendation on frequency.
You could start off once a month maybe, and then eventually move it once every 3 months maybe. But
Like this committee.
yeah, just to get a feel for it and understanding, wrap your head around what you want, because then once you know your role.
And just to be clear, I may
But it's
not
not
get this, like I can suggest once a month, but that, I don't get to make that decision, so.
It's just a thought, like, it's
Yeah,
good to always have it a little bit more frequent, so you don't, that's because you're getting used to what you do.
yeah, I guess I sort of like eat, sleep, and breathe this at the moment, but, so I think once a month is great, but, you know, you are on the EOC team and you're already too busy. So how often?
I think most of the people on it are going to
Exactly.
be busy.
And Bob is on it, and I know you don't have any time to meet.
Not in the summer anyway.
Okay, that's a good, helpful.
So, how many people do we have that do have EOC basic training?
All of them.
Everybody does.
Everyone
So,
on the EOC team has the basic training for EOC.
how many did you say there is?
11.
11.
Yes.
Um,
Trying to encourage participation.
Didn't advertise this. That might have got more people here.
It's true.
But we'll tell two friends and so on.
I'd be tempted to say run it once a month for 2 months. And the reason for that is it would get the I think with 2 meetings within 2 months, it should set us up it should set us up, if everybody is trained, to be ready to do a tabletop.
Oh, yeah, well, I can't even think about tabletop exercises right now. But yeah,
I don't think it's too scary.
okay. But
Sorry.
they take, yeah.
Do I have the EOC basic? No, right? Because I didn't have.
Did you come to the training?
I
that
did,
we
but I
put
didn't
on?
write the exam.
Then technically JIBC doesn't think that you have it, but
Is it free?
what? The
The-
training?
yeah.
No, the municipality paid for that.
Should you be in the EOC though, or do we?
No, I
you
don't.
have
I
enough
wouldn't usually be,
other
but
stuff?
Well,
Depends.
depends. I
Mhm.
mean, technically you'd be in ops.
What do you think? How long can we pull people?
Actually, everybody.
Away
everybody
from
here
their
would be in
jobs.
ops.
And it's never happened before. We've never had to activate an ESC. Is this a useful use of time?
Go ahead, Bruce.
Next question.
He just won't answer.
So, I mean, are we, let's just say we did have it. Let's just say we did have 2 meetings within 2 months. The management, the management of that would be that we would get our roles defined, we would have some ideas about what that looks like.
I haven't
Who,
even
what,
gotten
when?
into the
Minutia of
exact
it?
content of what we would do, but certainly the beginning would be an orientation. You know, here is everyone, here's where the EOC is, here's what's in it, and then we would move on to what roles and what might be involved in that role. You know, drills, like I said, orientations, with the ultimate goal being an exercise, but again, I see that as being pretty far off.
I vote for every 2 months. And I would just expect to skip the summer. It's just,
Yeah.
Summer's
yeah, you
hopeless
just-
for
too
getting
much
into
you
it.
can't, don't get people.
Even
out in
May
summer.
and
Yeah,
October.
Yeah.
so you're saying, do,
I would
Or
say
May
every
to
2 months.
September.
I'm just from
Yeah.
a reasonable level of participation in people's time. And again, I think it's great to be prepared. What is the likelihood that we're actually gonna have to, you know what I mean? So, in my mind, I don't even think I'm part of this team, so, but that's just my vote.
No,
Although I
that's
may be part of the team.
valuable. You're not part of the EOC team,
No.
but you're part of this
I'm
committee.
part of this. Yes.
Okay, so if from the 2 managers that are sitting at the table, would you be able to leave your jobs or to send your staff to leave their jobs for a couple hours twice a month? Would you support that?
Not
Every-
twice,
every-
every 2 months.
Sorry,
other
every 2
month.
months.
Not twice a month.
Yeah, no, that would be excessive.
Let's just say no.
I'll accept every 2 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it would only be like
I like every 2
a
months.
couple of
I like every
hours,
2
and
months.
not talking like a full day or.
No,
2 hours.
like,
every 2 months.
not in the summer months.
May, June, July, August?
May, June.
Or July?
Or maybe
June,
do
July,
one,
August.
one somewhere in there or something, maybe, but
Yeah, I'm happy to take the summer off.
Yeah.
We didn't get very good attendance at this meeting over the summer, so
No.
I don't imagine there'd be many people around. Okay, so should we like pass a resolution so that we can pass this on, or I'll just say this is a discussion that we had at this level. Generally, is there any disagreement with the 2 hours every 2 months minus the summer? Okay, good. So everyone that was here agreed that that would work. I'll pass that on and see if I can get any kind of approval for that. Okay, that brings us to item 6.2, unless anyone had anything else to add. Training and exercise priorities. So we have identified the 2 things on this list sort of based on, well, let's start with spill response. So spill response is one of the few emergencies that we actually have experienced on Bowen and have had to respond to or been asked to respond to. So this is for me a priority. So to sort of talk to you about some of these acronyms, North Shore Emergency Management is offering shoreline cleanup and assessment technique training on the North Shore. And there's the possibility that they'll have a few seats available for Bowen Island staff if we obviously pay for them. So I'm still waiting to hear back about that, but I'll be talking to Bonnie, Ian, and Bob if it's a go, because obviously once that hazard, in this case oil or fuel, reaches our shores, we are responsible for it on the beach. So obviously water is supposed to be federal, but we have experienced delays in any other level of government coming to assist. So we wanted to be able to do a little bit more in terms of plugging the hole until somebody with more cleanup ability arrives, and to try and stop it from coming to the shore if at all possible. So we're looking at, we're speaking to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy later on this month. They're going to come over and talk a little bit about what they can offer in terms of training and support for us. And then I've also joined a committee whose name escapes me right now, but it's essentially a marine emergency response committee made up of jurisdictions around Metro Vancouver. And hopefully I can, learn more and advocate for programs and policies that will advance, Bowen's needs through my participation on that committee. So basically, anyone has anything that they want to see happen with spill training, now would be a time to mention it. And do you have guys, Bob, Ian, that would want to be involved in the shoreline cleanup and assessment training?
I can ask them. I'm not
Yeah, that's
sure.
all I can just ask.
Who would be responsible if oil hit the shore? Is it your department? Is it public
I think
works?
it's a multi-departmental
We'd all have
issue.
to work together.
Yeah.
I have a 1-800 number that I dial,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one that nobody responds to.
so.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just keep you guys informed as those training opportunities present themselves. And then there's also discussion about getting the JIBC hazardous materials awareness course taught on Bowen, because
Yeah.
the fire department could use it and we could send municipal staff to that as well.
Now, do we have any spill kit in the municipality? Do you guys have any down at the work yard, like a big spill kit for,
We have spill kits for like small, like say on a road or something like that.
the same stuff we have?
Yeah, exactly. We don't have booms or anything like that.
We have a small boom that would do, I don't know how much area, so we're doing an inventory. There's one small little boom down there, but we
Is
don't.
there?
Yeah, I don't know if you can spread it out, I don't know anything, so.
Oh,
so
you've
we're just
seen
gonna, yeah, we're gonna.
Where is it?
It's been
I'm
used,
not
hasn't
sure
it?
where, I'm not sure if it has been used, but supposedly there is a boom, Carla said she saw it in some place down there, so. We have to stretch out to see if it actually even functions.
Yeah.
So this is the stuff, so hopefully what I was saying through training, we would know maybe what equipment that we need to budget for, to buy.
So are we buying a boat too then?
Absolutely.
We
I
need
think
a
that
boat.
this committee needs to make that
Yeah, we
recommendation.
just need to, yeah,
Yeah,
buy
something
yours from you.
Yeah.
So kind.
I'd like aluminum, deep
Sold.
sea worthy.
Volvo Power?
Yeah. When-
Yeah, I think a boat is maybe low on the priority list, but we could definitely,
How are we gonna spread a boom around without a boat?
you would have to like rent or borrow, So I'm assuming that we could charter a boat for that purpose.
Ira would be available for a
Oh,
job
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah, and we would have to do it
Corporate does have
hopefully so
an emergency
seldom
vehicle
Um,
vessel for us.
that it probably wouldn't, we probably couldn't justify buying our own boat.
And
I'll keep
also
working
have-
on that.
they'd also have
Yeah.
to go off of Mars.
That was a good point that Jen said, is
Right?
that Cormorant.
Yeah, I was got one of
is
those.
emergency, like they get
Yeah,
They get free moorage
Free moorage
in
because
exchange
they
for
are
being an
an
emergency
emergency
vessel.
vessel.
okay.
So that, I think, falls under emergency.
I believe so.
So maybe having a dialogue with them about that.
Okay, do you think that they would be opposed to assisting in a situation like that?
Cormorant Marine?
Yeah. Is there any
Oh,
reason
no.
why their boat couldn't be around oil in the water?
No, as a matter of fact, the ones that I've seen working in the harbor are launched off barges,
Okay,
and Ivor's got one.
yeah.
And,
We would not be talking a big boom. This would be something that you can throw over yourself, like it wouldn't be a barge. We're literally, again, plugging the hole until someone else can get here. We're not turning into the Coast Guard.
yeah. I would suspect that by the time it got to Bowen Island, it'd be one honking big spill.
Well, the instance that
We're
happened.
just
down
sort of
there.
talking smaller ones, like even if it was, diesel, it looks worse than it is, but.
Like Snug Cove size, if you had something go haywire in Snug Cove.
Yeah,
Yeah, something like that, just.
like the
Yeah.
boats in Manly Bay that sink or
Right.
almost sink.
That's been the
Spill,
instance that where we
that's-
don't have anything and.
A single vessel sort of.
Yeah,
Yeah, small,
Single vessel
Yeah.
problem.
yeah.
Are those booms one-time use?
I don't think.
The ones that I was looking at that are cheap, like $1,000, are one-time use, but there are others.
Mhm.
Something to consider.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and we don't know if the one that you have is one-time use and
I
is
don't
being
even know
used,
if
or
I don't even know if it's
or if it
there.
floats, or if it's there.
Or if it, yeah. It's in a bag labeled boom.
We could get
There's
some
nothing
oil
in it. Yeah.
So another thing that's sort of high on my list is communications or media training. So I don't know if everyone else has heard this, but communications are sort of one of the first things to go wrong and also one of the most important pieces in an emergency, not just communicating to the public, which is obviously critical, but also internal communications so that staff know what's going on and communications with outside organizations. So our current emergency plan, which we will be updating, so we could change it, but does have a role for management and council, mayor and council, as being sort of that public figure that speaks to the public in an emergency and conveys information and reassuring messages. And I think that they should have an understanding of what that might involve, so sort of what to say, what not to say. I don't feel qualified to deliver that sort of training myself, so I'm advocating for particularly mayor and council and management staff to get some sort of media training. It'd be a good idea for you to go as well. That just occurred to me.
Probably, yeah.
Because it's
Me and
fire
my public speaking.
fire emergency. Sorry. And hopefully it helps in some of our other sort of day-to-day dealings with the media as well. I know there were some good takeaways that weren't just emergency specific for me. So that's something that I'm pushing for. Does anyone have, objections, things that they think should be a higher priority in terms of training? Other people that should be involved in that other than mayor and council? Sorry, I know this is sort of the first time we're talking about it. And nobody really came
Just
to
somebody that you should reach out to in case is Richard DeJong,
Mm.
because he was interested in being part of ESS and all this emergency planning for Bowen.
He actually approached me and I added him to the EOC team in the notification system. So actually, if we do activate the team, he'll get notified if he's around.
Because he is media liaison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He is on
Or what?
say that
Yes.
could be a backup or whatever.
I wonder if he...
Somebody to consider as far as skills and training.
Yeah, okay. I wonder what his participation in that might look like, but...
Well, if he's here under civilian status, then I'm sure. Well, whatever, no, just, or he could do the training himself.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he wants to volunteer to deliver it.
There we go. No, seriously, he could.
So it's worth asking. Okay, that's a good idea. That would save us
He's
thousands.
almost about to retire too, I think.
Oh, well.
He said that, yeah.
He'd be solid here.
That's
Kind of
great.
with sprinkles or something.
Okay, so training and exercise plan development is a role of this committee, so we should sort of keep it on the agenda. This I wanted to throw at everyone is what is currently in the emergency plan. If you don't mind just passing that along. This is what's currently in the emergency plan in terms of training. So it was never filled out. It really was just printed and then sort of not looked at again.
We can share.
You guys want to share?
Sorry, guys. I wasn't expecting very many people.
You did tell me there was only going to be 3.
So obviously this has to get edited, or it's on the list of things to edit when we update the emergency plan in the very near future. So give it some thought. I don't know if you want to take this home with you or ponder it right before you go to sleep. But we should update this. I'm happy to leave it as a matrix. We can totally change the format. But this is what was recommended to us in 2007 when the plan was created. I have some thoughts on it myself, but ultimately it's this committee that will approve the new emergency plan or the updated emergency plan once it's created. So if you want to see changes or there's certain training that you really feel we should be doing that we aren't, there are some ideas on here, but also feel free to contribute.
Holy, I'm right in the mid, I got all my stuff together. I'm in the process of updating all the training that I've done. Realize my life.
That's great. And some of this I think is really important. For instance, hazardous materials awareness is actually listed on page 9 there. Other things like emotional and spiritual care, I'm not actually thinking we'd get involved in, not because it's not important, but because we have a lot of volunteers on the island that are already sort of working on that. Evacuation planning, I think, is kind of critical. So, yeah, some of these I think should stay on, and others we can probably get rid of. So just something to keep in mind.
Just as another aside, did you see what they're offering up Chilliwack with that spontaneous volunteer program that's coming up?
Yeah, I did.
Is there any capacity for anybody to take some of that training? Because I think
Can
that,
we talk about that afterwards?
yeah, sure.
ESS training? Okay.
You should have added that at the start.
That's right.
Because I
Not on
want to do
the-
the.
Well, you can't just
put a nilly thing.
Okay.
There was just nothing left this
Sorry.
year.
I should send you the email I just got today because they're doing exactly managing spontaneous volunteers course. So.
That would be really good.
Okay.
And there's, is a line item in here for damage assessment.
Yeah.
I know we've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
Is that something that's still on your radar to provide the course?
It is, and just so you know, it's on the action item,
Oh,
so
there
it
we
won't
go.
fall off my radar until it gets dealt with. I just noticed one of the other islands, I can't recall which, just did a public information session on rapid damage assessment. So it'd be interesting to look more at, it was one of the CRD islands, so I can't. It'd be interesting to look more at who delivered that and what the content was to see if maybe that's something we can do as a public education tool. But I also still agree that we need to have at least one staff person who can assess municipal and other buildings.
Well, that course is coming up, right?
Yeah. Oh, tell people what you're doing.
I'll let you tell.
Ian's
Tell the people what you're doing.
Ian is taking a rapid damage assessment course next week, put on by the North Shore. It was specifically for like contractors, building inspectors, that sort of thing, like people with the technical knowledge already to some degree. And they only had like 1 or 2 more spaces, and I managed to sneak Ian in. So if you're not too busy doing other things, you can
What's
rapidly damage assess.
the date?
The 11th, Wednesday the 11th. Well, it's critical that you go.
Oh, no, I'm going. I just didn't remember the date. That's up
Jen,
I
that's
forgot about that.
one of the things I could see in the future my role being is I could be the coordinator for, and the newest term that we're calling it is post-disaster building assessment. We're leaving the term damage and safety out because that implies a certain, something. So we're just saying post-disaster building assessments. And so, yeah, I think I've mentioned before, I'm working on a grant with the BC Housing and Justice Institute and engineers. So, yeah, at the end of next year, we'll actually have like a framework for the BC standard for doing post-disaster building assessments. So yeah, I'm happy to share that along the way. But yeah, I think we talked before having a session on Island that we could run by BC Housing, that we could invite volunteer firefighters, we have lots of contractors and builders. So yeah, I'll be curious maybe to hear how the course goes for you next week, and then if it's feasible for us to do something like that on BOEM. Like there's lots of people who would be qualified to be able to take that. And then it would be a matter of when disaster hits, I would be happy to play the role of being in the EOC and coordinating that.
Oh, I see.
And then, because you need somebody in there coordinating it, and then if we have a lot of resources, you'll get whatever percentage of them able to help on a given day.
Okay.
And,
For some
And you'd be
reason-
qualified to lead that course?
As
Sorry?
an architect?
am I qualified to lead the course? No,
No.
not yet. I don't know if I will train or not, but we might look to other trainers. Because the Justice Institute has such good experience, and BC Housing has good trainers.
Yeah.
So,
So I think originally we talked and you said that sorry, I'm misquoting you here, but I thought you didn't want or didn't think it was a good idea to do it to the public, but perhaps you were talking about through NERPS. Was that, maybe I misunderstood?
well, there's 2 schools of thought about training the public on doing these kinds of assessments on their buildings. So it's like, one is that it might be reassuring to people, it might be educational for them so they can go and look around their own home, feel safe. If they see things that are red flags, they can then say, yes, we need help or whatever. And there's some apps that they've made available, although who knows if that's going to be available and for use. But there are, and that's something we're looking at in this grant, is the different apps and stuff that might be available to help people do that. And yeah, so there's some research that suggests that you can actually get a decent result, and so that people can actually feel safe then staying in their homes. But then the sort of flip side of that is like if people miss something major, or if you're self-reporting, people might have something major and they're like, oh, I'll just jig that up
I'll just fix
and we'll
it.
stay. I don't wanna have to leave, I don't wanna have to go anywhere. So then they actually would stay when they really shouldn't, whereas if we had a system of a third party coming saying, you can't stay here, you know, so there's sort of both sides. I'm not necessarily on either one yet, so I think there's value
Okay.
in looking at both.
Well, we'll do more research. I'll find out what they did on the other Golf Islands.
Yeah.
Ian will go to
Yeah.
that course. You'll continue what you're doing. And maybe we'll look at rapid damage assessment for 2018, because I don't
Yeah.
think it's gonna happen this year.
That sounds
Anyone else want to talk about training and exercising? Oh, I didn't even really talk about exercising, but it's low priority for me right now. Other than a small sort of, like I said, orientation or drill. I love that this says it takes about 6 months to prepare a full-scale exercise.
And that you should do it every 2 years.
And then we should do it every 2 years.
And
We're
at a
definitely
cost of-
changing that.
At a cost of $14,000 and some odd
$1,000.
dollars.
Yeah.
That was
Oh, yeah, let's
2007
just,
number.
let's just,
Yeah.
That's right.
It's like a 30 somehow.
run that, you know, every 2 years, sure, no problem.
No problem.
Along with the drill, the tabletop, oh, and that year's functional, which is every
I
year.
like the sentence at the back though, you know, strive to conduct at least an orientation exercise and tabletop annually. I think we probably could do that, especially now that the municipality has an emergency program. So I don't mind the sort of subscript here, but definitely the bits in the table are not.
We should
Unfortunately.
go away and do a course like that.
What's that?
We should be going away to do something like that.
Yes. We'll have to travel somewhere too.
Well, yeah, it'd be
Maybe
interesting
Caribbean.
to see if, because like the North Shore did a fairly full-on one with Operation
Yeah.
Windshield a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting, maybe we actually are able to latch on to one of theirs and send some of us
Exactly
to go
what
and
I
experience
thought.
it with them.
Yeah, totally. And the province does exercises occasionally as well, so we can participate in those. Yeah, totally on someone else's time. I definitely would like to take advantage of some of those opportunities.